Hey everyone, I'm Danny and welcome to Wizardry Workshop. In today's video, we're going to be making an acceptance letter to Nevermore Academy from Netflix's series Wednesday. Right now, it's kind of like in the in-between spot between the first half of season 2 and the second half, which is coming out a little bit later, and I just needed to do something having to do with Wednesday. I am posting this on Wednesday, so we're just gonna call it Wednesday. This letter that we're making doesn't actually exist in the series. Like, it's not a prop replica or anything. I designed this all myself. I did find some pictures that Netflix had sent out as like a press pack of some kind for the launch of Wednesday. That did have an acceptance letter in it, and I used some of the wording there, but I changed the wording up a lot because it just didn't sound like a actual acceptance letter. I completely redesigned the letter, and I created an envelope to put it in. Check out the description box below for a list of all the supplies you're gonna need to make this DIY, and let's get started. First of all, of course, you're going to need to print out the templates. We have the Nevermore Acceptance Letter itself right here. This is printed on regular size printer paper, double-sided. The reverse side just has some like fake bleed through just to make it look a little more authentic. And we've got a parchment texture on there. There is a clean version if you don't want to do all that. However, you can still see some of the disclaimer border from around, so you're gonna have to trim that off. Also, the envelope is designed to fit the trimmed paper. So if you don't trim it, it's not going to fit. And speaking of the envelope, here is the envelope design I created. This is printed on cardstock, but it's a very thin cardstock on 11 by 17 paper, double-sided. I do have a version of this that is the standard letter size paper if you can't do 11 by 17, but it's in pieces and you're going to have to glue it all together to get this shape. So let's just go ahead and start with the envelope. You can see there's kind of like dotted lines in all 4 of these corners. That is where we're going to do some scoring so that we can fold this together in the end and it'll look nice. I do my scoring with a ruler and a Cricut scoring tool. So basically we're just going to line it up and then use the scoring tool to score. So now you should see those lines in there. That's going to make it easier to fold up when we're done. Next, we're going to need a ruler and X-Acto knife, or you could just use scissors for the whole thing. I'm only going to use scissors for this top part, but I find that making the straight lines of this with a ruler and X-Acto knife just makes it easier to fold up, and it just looks more professional. So I'm just going around the whole thing and cutting everywhere where there's a straight line. So you should be right here where everything's cut out except for this top flap part. For this, we'll just use scissors. You might be asking, why am I not die cutting this since I do have a die cutting machine? It's impossible to get it to line up 100% exactly where you want it. So something like this where it has to be precise or you're not gonna get the folds right or anything, it just wouldn't work. And I mean, it looks pretty good just with scissors anyways. No big deal. First, we fold everywhere that we've scored, starting with the sides, the bottom, and then the top. So with it all folded up, it should take this envelope shape, like this. Now we do have to make sure that it stays closed like this. I'm going to use a glue stick. You could use double-sided tape or something. So I'm going to take a piece of scrap paper and put it inside like this. And then I'm going to close this up like that. Then we'll take another piece of scrap paper and line it up with the edge of this flap right there. So this is the part that we want glue on. I'll put a paperweight on here to help hold everything together. Got my glue stick, and I'm just going to put glue anywhere where that flap is exposed. While that glue is still wet and before we close everything up, we'll just do that same thing to this other side. Glue it down, and we should have a nice little envelope right here. In hindsight, I should have probably had this flap a little bit further in like this, so the shape might be a little bit different when you do it. I'm probably going to add about this much on the bottom inside of this flap right here underneath so that it kind of goes like that rather than that. So yeah, if it looks a little different, that's why. And now I'm going to trim that white border off from around this letter. With it trimmed, there should be no more white on either side on the edges. And to get this to fit the envelope, all we're going to do is fold in toward the middle. So we're going to have it face down and fold in toward the middle so that you have the Nevermore Academy Office of Admissions right there on this part. And we're just going to flip that over and fold the bottom in. So it should look something like this folded up, just 2 folds, and it opens up like this. We can now place this into the envelope like this, and it closes up. At this point, we have a couple of options. I have stickers that you can print to put here that has like a seal on it, or you can do a wax seal, which is what I'm gonna do. So I thought I was all prepared for this DIY, and when I went to look through all of my wax for sealing, I have red, green, which would probably look good, but it doesn't fit the Nevermore scheme. I have silver. I have purple, which would also work, but then it would just blend in. You wouldn't really be able to see it. It needs to be gold, and I found my gold, and for some reason, I've melted it all into a jar. I don't remember why I did this. I'm sure I was doing some project that maybe it didn't work. Maybe I could warm this up in the microwave to get it softer. I think I'm gonna do that because it is in a glass jar. All right, so this just came out of the microwave. I apologize for the experiment, but you know what? This is the best I've got right here, just this little ball of gold wax. I'm gonna melt it and I'm just gonna pour it on there. I have these seals, which are like every letter of the alphabet, so you could put the first letter of the person's name that you're sending it to, or you could put an N for Nevermore. I personally love this one. It's just like a magical symbol from Supernatural, and it just works really well for this type of stuff, so I'm gonna use this. All right, this is the moment of truth. How well will it work? So it looks like it worked out pretty well. And yes, there is a piece of paper under here. That is intentional, okay? I forgot to mention it before I did it. We're going to cut out under there because I want to be able to reuse this envelope, and I don't want to ruin it when I take the seal off. Okay, that looks pretty good. That worked out a lot better than I expected. So now let's go ahead and cut this paper off of the seal, but keep some of it under the seal. I'll show you what I mean. Peel it off from under there, but don't damage the seal. So you should have something that looks like this. And then on the bottom, it has paper. I don't want this opposite side to just be white like that because it doesn't look that great. So I'm going to be using my Deco Color gold foil, premium gold foil paint marker, and I'm just going to color this side gold. Not perfect, but it looks a lot better than just torn paper. You do have to wait for it to dry, so just test it like this on a scrap piece of paper and see if it leaves any gold paint when you touch it. And if it doesn't really leave much or any at all, you're ready to continue. You could use double-sided tape for this, but I have these little magnets that are pretty strong. And our hot glue is ready to go. I'm gonna put just a little bit right on this side of this magnet, and then I'm gonna put the magnet right here on this side of the gold seal. That's an N for negative, but it actually works for Nevermore too. Put some hot glue on this one as well. Make sure you're putting it just in the right spot, or at least close to it. And before it can dry, close it up just like that. So now I put the hot glue on it, I put the magnet in there, and then I closed it up so that it would shift to the right spot before the glue dried. So inside, it's hard to focus on it, but there is a little magnet in there right here that I've glued in. It's on this back part, not on this front flap. And then we can put our letter in there above that magnet, and then it closes up. This way you can reuse the wax seal, and it's not going to tear up the envelope that you spent so much time making and all that stuff. It's totally reusable. At this point, you could be done, but there is nothing on the back. So if you want to put an address there, I did create these address labels. These are printed on sticker paper. For this one, I do have a Cricut cut guide, so if you need to cut these out that way, you can, but they're just rectangles. So I am just going to cut them out with scissors. Peel off the back, and then this label can just go right on the back of your letter like that. And now you can just put the person's name right there on the envelope, and you are done. Here's the finished Nevermore Academy acceptance letter. With that magnet mechanism, we can open it up without damaging that gold seal. The letter comes out, and here is the letter. And that is it for this DIY. Let me know what you guys thought of this in the comments below. Also, I get a lot of ideas for the DIYs I do on this channel from your comments, so if there's something else that you think would be really cool to do, let me know in the comments. If you made it all the way to the end of the video with me, you're a wizard. Give it a thumbs up down below if you did enjoy the video, and subscribe if you're not subscribed for more really cool DIYs like this, unboxing videos, and stuff like that. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.